Theresa May has said she is confident that the government will win its appeal against a High Court ruling on triggering Brexit talks. She told European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker and Germany's Angela Merkel she was committed to triggering Article 50 by March 2017. 3 judges ruled that she cannot do so without Parliament's support. It comes as a Conservative MP said he was quitting due to irreconcilable differences with the government. Phillips has been among Tory MPs pushing for Parliament to be consulted over the UK's strategy for negotiating its exit from the EU, accusing ministers of trying to ignore their views. The government is appealing against Thursday's ruling to the Supreme Court. All 11 judges are due to hear the case in early December. If it loses its appeal, it is expected that the government will have to publish some form of new law for MPs, and the House of Lords, to vote on. The Prime Minister's spokesman said she had expressed disappointment at Thursday's court ruling in a phone call to Mr. Juncker and Mrs. Merkel but had said the focus of the government is on the Supreme Court case. We are confident of winning that case and proceeding with Article 50. But former Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg, now the Lib Dems Europe spokesman, said his party would seek to join with others in both the Commons and the Lords to amend the legislation to tell the government to pursue a soft Brexit that would keep the UK within the EU's single market. If they believe the government is pursuing an unnecessarily hard, in other words an unnecessarily self-harming version of Brexit, then of course MPs should be free to reject that, he told the BBC. Conservative peer Lady Wheatcroft told BBC Radio 4's Today she was willing to table an amendment to future legislation to delay the Brexit process, saying it was only right to delay triggering Article 50 until we have a clearer idea of what it actually entails. But former Conservative Cabinet Minister Theresa Villers told the programme, "Frankly I think it would be a constitutional outrage if unelected Liberal Democrat peers were to stand in the way of implementing the clear result of a referendum in which 33 million people took part." On Friday, German Foreign Minister Walter Steinmeier reiterated the German government's desire to see Article 50 triggered quickly at a Berlin press conference with Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, ruling out any preliminary discussions before then. Thursday's High Court ruling found that the government could not trigger Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty alone, without the backing of Parliament, which would require publishing legislation to be debated by the Commons and the Lords. It was met with furious newspaper headlines, with the Daily Mail describing the judges involved as enemies of the people, which in turn sparked a social media backlash. Chantal Amy Duer-Rise QC, chairman of the Bar Council, told BBC News the attack on judges and their role was extremely concerning. "The rule of law sits in our democracy as a cornerstone and it is important for our judiciary to rule on questions of the rule of law. If we do not respect the independent judiciary in that role we put at risk our democracy." Labour's Shadow Justice Secretary Richard Burgon called on Justice Secretary Liz Truss to speak out against the hysterical headlines while Conservative former Attorney General Dominic Grieve told The Guardian the attacks on the judiciary were entirely unjustified. But UKIP leadership contender Suzanne Evans told the BBC's Daily Politics, "Judges are allowing pressure groups and campaigners to bring cases for judicial review and making rulings which would not stand up to scrutiny at the ballot box." The government has argued that it cannot show its hand in detail ahead of negotiations with 27 other EU member states, despite calls from MPs to clarify her plans. For Labour, Shadow Foreign Secretary Emily Thornberry said that while she thought that in the end Parliament will vote for Article 50 to be triggered, the judgment meant the government would have to give MPs some basic terms on which they are going to negotiate Brexit.